to become so blasé about losing my mind. I can almost taste the money and the fame, the hospital bills and prison time.
Good evening, Fredonia. You're listening to The Local Lowdown on WCVF 88.9 The Voice and WDVL 89.5 The Inferno. I'm your co-host, Mel, executive producer and promotions lead.
And I'm not Jordan. I'm Casio. I'm the Fredonia Radio Systems news director. Sadly, Jordan could not be here this week. He's not feeling well. We wish him all the best, and hopefully he'll be back with us next week.
Miss you, Jordan.
Miss you.
I think I miss Jordan the most.
Oh,
though.
no. We're not going to go down this
Ayo,
road.
it's me, Alex, technical director. Everything's working so far, and I'm very pleased about it.
You know why it's working?
Why?
Because we have the plumber working on it. Thank you, Alex. You know what? That's a different story, but go ahead, Cas. Continue.
Tonight's show is brought to you by Fredonia Radio Systems in a group effort to promote and showcase the local music scene here in Fredonia and the greater Western New York area. Welcome to the Local Lowdown.
On this episode, we have our guest for the week, Mr. St. Blind. Hello.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for being on the show. I guess we could get right into questions. I feel like there's no easy way to explain this. First of all, introduce yourself. Where are you from?
I'm Aaron. I am from originally a suburb outside of Buffalo called East Amherst. And now I live here in Fredonia, New York, right on Main Street. I'm just turned 21 and I'm making music.
Heyo. And that's why you're here. One of, I guess, the bigger questions that I got asked a couple of times, I won't say by who. So what's the story behind your name, Saint Blind?
So I grew up Jewish, so I'm not Catholic at all. So I never had any reverence for like saints or anything. They were never really in my upbringing. But Saint Cecilia is the I figured you would call it matron saint, but I've heard it called patron saint because she was a woman, but
I've heard it both ways.
oh, whatever.
Yeah.
She is the matron or patron saint of musicians. So I just really like that. So I actually have this tattoo. This is a marble carving done in Italy. I think in the year, it was like several centuries ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to remember what year it was. But anyway, so after looking it up a little bit, I realized that the word Cecilia or the name Cecilia has the same root as the word blind. So like it kind of loosely translates to blind from Italian. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. There was a nice ring to that, I thought. So I just went with Saint Blind. So I originally had a group called Saint Cecilia and the Peppermints. And I was I was kind of Saint Cecilia. Mm-hmm. And then we had flutes, cellos, guitars, piano, a choir. We had a few sopranos, altos, tenors. Right. So then, that eventually evolved into Saint Blind.
So there is a story.
There is a story.
Because I feel like most of the time, sometimes we ask, and like a lot of the audience has a deeper meaning to certain either songs or stuff, and they're like, "What is it about?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't know. I thought about it while I was on the toilet." So and it's like, oh, okay.
No, I'm glad that there is an answer that I can give because I know what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
cool.
Well, I have a question for you as well. So your music spans a ton of genres. Some would say that you're baroque pop, honky tonk, neo-psych, whole bunch of different things. What musicians or artists would you say have helped to kind of influence your musical style?
In terms of like baroque pop or chamber pop or whatever you want to call it, where you take music and sort of inject some of the baroque classical elements. Cosmo Sheldrake, he's a big guy for me. He came out with this album a couple years ago, the Much Much How How and I, and something about that. Before I ever started writing music like this, like any kind of pop or rock music, I was an orchestral composer and a choral composer. So all throughout late middle school and then all throughout high school, I was writing music for orchestras and choirs, and I actually started my own orchestra and that I composed for and conducted. So that was always my background. It was always first I would write out the score of everything and for all the instruments, and then the lyrics would come and the drums and the guitars and stuff. So yeah, Cosmo Sheldrake was a big one that sort of showed that you can do that, and it'll sound cool. And then there are other songs. So that's one of the genres you mentioned. But yeah, that's kind of my thing. Is I can span a bunch of genres. So the Smiths were a big. So the very first thing I put out under Saint Blind, the reason I actually started recording that project itself was because I had heard this story about Morrissey in the studio, how he would record things in the Smiths, and I was like, what if I try that out? And then I ended up liking it, and I was like, what if I put this out? And then I was like, what if I call myself Saint Blind? And so that's kind of how it started. So I can kind of thank the Smiths for that. Oingo Boingo was another big one. So that, that kind of 80s synth, while also being sort of orchestral, because it still is Danny Elfman.
Right.
Yeah, to name a few.
Cool. Oh, wow. Well, I mean, some of it also was written in your website, which we'll get into later. That's super interesting. I that's something again that we definitely want to delve in deep as an audience. We have a certain interpretation of music or definitions, and then it's super interesting to hear what the artists themselves have to say about their own music. That being said, I need to know more about these album covers. I was sitting at them and I was like, okay, number one, I can tell it's watercolor because I work with watercolor. It's a bit difficult, a lot of layering, but a lot of the album covers or the single covers have watercolor elements. Is there a meaning?
So if you look very closely, they're actually signed A.W. Schapiro. So those are actually my watercolors that I did when I was in high school. So the watercolors that you're talking about are mine. I did not do the art for nearly all of them. Literally the ones that are specifically watercolors, those are the only ones that I made. The other ones that are better, that are more acrylic painted and look like a real artist made them, those were done by my girlfriend / art director, Abby, who's wonderful and who 90% of my songs are about.
Shout out Abby.
Shout out Abby. Actually, real quick, if you don't mind,
Go for it.
I have a fan in Round Rock, Texas that I told her I would shout her out.
Please, go for it.
So, Bryn, what's up?
That's sick.
Bryn.
We continue to travel across the world. We've had contacts in Scotland and Italy. Now we can add Texas to the list.
So, Bryn from Round Rock, what's up?
Yo.
I told her I would say hi. So sorry. So my girlfriend did most of those. There's not too much meaning behind connecting the actual artwork with the lyrics. I kind of just, to be perfectly honest, just have a trove of her paintings that I've taken as professional photos as I possibly can. And then I write a new song, I record it, I pick one of those and slap it on. So, she's just a very good artist. So I use her paintings.
I mean, I would say your watercolor artworks are good as well.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I don't know why. I mean, you say that they particularly don't have meaning, both the lyrics and the artwork itself. But at least when I was listening to certain songs and I would look at the album cover, it made sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to a certain extent there was I guess sometimes there would be a bit of a decision of okay, this kind of has the vibe of the song, but it's really, I mean, I don't mean to, burst your bubble, but unfortunately it's...
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I put very little thought is put into actually matching the artwork to the song. Sorry.
No, you're good. I think that's kind of the beauty of it, though.
Yeah.
Because, for example, even when it comes to fan to fan, audience to audience, Jordan and I, when we interpret songs, we tend to listen to them together.
Yeah.
Our interpretation, vastly different. He listens to his music at 9 a.m. sometimes. I listen to mine at midnight.
Oh, God.
So sometimes, the interpretation's a bit different. But, I mean, good to know. You didn't burst my bubble. I just like to think that my interpretation is...
Well, hey, that's still your interpretation, so...
That's true. It's true. All right. How about the Igo Hall series?
Yeah. All right. So, flashback 1 year ago.
Yeah.
You start the Igo Hall series. How would you say, like, kind of like, what was your writing/recording process behind that? And how would you say, like, doing everything like within your dorm room in Igo kind of influenced that in a way?
So back to what I was saying before about the Smiths. I heard this in some like documentary, and I know it's kind of tough to say that you're a fan of the Smiths because you think of the Smiths, you think of Morrissey, and you think of blatant racism and being a horrible person. Unfortunately, he just made really good music, so I'm a Smiths fan. I'm sorry. I saw this documentary about how they recorded. I don't even remember which song, but it was one of their biggest songs. And basically, what they said was that Johnny Marr and the entire band would come into the studio and record all. Like Johnny Marr would write a song, and then they would record all that. And then the next day is when Morrissey would come in, put on the headphones, and he's never heard the music before, and just with his little book of poetry, would just put on the headphones, the recording engineer would hit record, and he would just sing over it, and that's the song.
Yeah, wow. Like if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that's how This Charming Man.
I was gonna say This Charming Man, but I didn't want to be wrong.
They came and recorded everything, and then he just showed up and was like, "All right, let's do this."
Exactly, and so he hadn't really heard it before, and he just sort of came up with the melody on the spot. So just as an experiment, just for the sake of being creative and just seeing what works, throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, I was like, well, I'll just give that a shot. So I found this poem that I wrote when I was in 9th or 10th grade. It was like I found it in an old Google Drive folder from like some creative writing class in high school. And so I just created this track. I didn't really have like a lot of tonality behind it. There wasn't really like a chord structure. And I was like, what? I'm not going to, try to come up with a melody. I'm not going to rehearse this or anything. I'm just going to hit record and sing this poem that I just found over it. And that ended up being the very first track of Igo Hall Part 1, Cherubim and Seraphim. So yeah, from there, so that was completely done on GarageBand on my iPhone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in my dorm room. And all of Igo Hall, all Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, and 4, all 12 songs were completely done on GarageBand on my iPhone.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of the challenge for me was, although I had access to obviously better equipment. So it was actually, believe it or not, all done on my iPhone with the Apple EarPods, the wired that come in the thing on the little microphone. That was my vocal mic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was kind of my thing. It was more of an experiment of like, how good of music can I do with these restrictions on myself?
Yeah.
And then it ended up being kind of cool. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
So that was Igo Hall.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Brownie fact. I mean, I am also relating back to like previous interviews, for example, like Matt Slazik or like Violent Graffiti, where they had similar the process in terms of making their own music. For example, both like Ryan and Evan like made their music also in their dorm. And for example, Matt Slazik, who ended up not intentionally wanting to use two separate like factors in terms of making lyrics, but he would sometimes have random lyrics and some random tune that he found. It's like, let's see if this works. And it does. And it ends up, I feel like most people don't expect it to work, and it's kind of like an experimental thing at first, and then afterwards you're like, you know what?
Yeah, that's pretty much, you can go from the very first thing I put out to the last thing I put out. It really, you can like, the sound, I feel like, changes quite a bit as I'm sort of finding my footing and experimenting with what works and what doesn't quite work. But yeah, it's fun.
I mean, would you say that you have found your sound?
I think so, to a certain extent. I think that I will, for as long as I'm making music, will be finding my sound. I think that I have sort of settled into kind of a comfortable sound that I like. I've always been really attracted to very lyric-driven music. Father John Misty, The Smiths, anything like just that music that uses as many words as possible to tell the best story as possible. Right. So that's always kind of been the music that I've liked listening to. So more and more lately, I've been trying to write music like that. So I think I am sort of, settling in a little bit. Like I said, I don't think I'm ever really going to settle on.
Is there anything like you are itching to try?
There are things that I promise I will never try.
Okay, I mean, you can go for it.
I listen to a lot of hip hop and rap. That if I were, born in a different place, in a different, with a different life, I might try that out. But I don't think that's anywhere in my near future. I do really want to get into. It's for me. It's really just the means that I have and the capital that I have to do everything. But I would love to record with as much of an orchestra as I could. Yes. Like I said, that's how I started. So that's what I'm most comfortable in. Is writing music for and conducting an orchestra. And I've only really had one opportunity so far in the context of St. Blind to flesh that out with the help of Mr. Dylan Rohr. Wonderful.
Hi, Dylan.
Hi, Dylan.
Dylan's over here.
But yeah, that's on Devil May Care, which I'm actually going to be playing an abridged version of here. But yeah, anyway, so I would love to incorporate more classical elements, strings and horns.
I think it would kind of come full circle.
Yeah.
With everything, like, again, as your upbringing, everything else that included up until the making of St. Blind, I think would really tie everything together. I don't think Sebastian's here. Do we know? No. That's unfortunate. He's usually here for these interviews, but he came up with a question that usually the questions that we ask on this show, you must just take the context of it because we don't want to read it word by word, but they're incredible questions. Shout out to Jordan, Aaron, and Sebastian, who are our A&R team who come up with the questions. But I'm reading this one word by word because you can tell how much of a fan Sebastian is.
Oh, boy.
It says, your mind-bending and my goodness, I can't speak. Definable instrumental tracks accompanied by mystifying lyrics are enough to grab any listener's attention. And someone help me.
Subcutaneous paintings.
Thank you. Is no exception. Your ability to take a story about your tattoos and turn it into a self-reflection musical adventure is incredible. How did you learn to create such otherworldly music? Were you always lyrically gifted?
Well, first of all, thank you, Sebastian.
I was like, how do I say this without seeming like I'm reading from a script? And I was like, this is Sebastian's question, all yours.
What's the question?
It was a loaded question. No, it was a loaded question.
Yeah, subcutaneous paintings. That I wrote that actually standing at the Easy Scan podium at Tops. I worked at Tops for about 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And so I actually have several songs that I wrote standing at the Easy Scan podium. One of the songs I'll be doing, Diatribes, was entirely written with a pen on legal paper standing at work. Have I always been lyrically gifted?
Just say yes.
Sure.
Just say yes.
No, I don't know. I've written. I wrote lyrics. I started writing lyrics probably when I was 13 or 14. I would write very. It was always third person. Mm-hmm. Like I would make up stories. As like a 14-year-old white kid from the suburbs, it's hard to come up with a lot of like personal trauma to write off of. Mm-hmm. So I would always make up stories of like heartbreak and, so that's where I got started with writing lyrics. And ever since then, the one thing that I can say that I've improved on is writing more reflectively, like writing actually about myself, mm-hmm. because, I feel like I've had more experiences in life that now I actually have the
means to write something.
Yeah, subcutaneous paintings, thank you for the very high compliment, Sebastian. But it was that's actually the drummer in the band that I play at live shows with, Jacob King, who you mm-hmm. had on a few weeks ago.
Yes,
that's his favorite song of mine. So really? I don't know.
Actually, there's something that you've mentioned that we didn't really touch upon before we came on, but you were on the Local Lowdown.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Years ago. Please explain, because I don't think we would have known because a lot of the stuff that were the people that we had on the show were like archived. They're not really necessarily made public as far as we know. There's so much footage and like audio in the drive, but like tell us more, please.
Yeah, so I was 14, I believe, when I started, and I was playing in this band called Monoshock. It was this like cover band. We did like Guns N' Roses and like Metallica covers.
Mm-hmm.
And the drummer of that was also a drummer in this band called Mom Said No. And Mom Said No, they had let go their keyboardist at the time. Mm-hmm. And so the drummer of that band, Alex Gennaro, who is in Ashford.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, so we go back. Alex Gennaro and I go way, way back.
Whoa.
Yeah. So we both were in Mom Said No, Alex and I, for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I started there when I was about 14. I did one show as their keyboardist. And then from then on, I became the lead guitarist because they got a new keyboardist. And yeah, you know, it was 6 years ago. I just figured that out. It was 2016. And yeah, if it was 6 years ago, I was 14.
Okay.
No, 15.
Okay.
Jesus Christ. I was 15.
It's a long time ago.
And yeah, you know, I don't, to be honest, I don't have the most vivid memory in the world of it. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I don't know.
I mean, I'm assuming the same room.
Yeah.
Do you know where you were seated?
I was over here.
Really?
I know there were two lead singers. They were over here, and the interviewers were where you were. Unfortunately, I don't remember the interviewer's name. But yeah, I was, like I was saying earlier, I was 14 at the time, and everybody else in the band were high school graduates or college graduates. So I think when I was 15, still in the band, we got a drummer that I think was like 26 at the time. So it was quite a large span of ages. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. We toured around, played a bunch of venues. We went up to Canada, all around, you know, upstate New York.
Wow.
Yeah, they're still kicking. I don't know. I left the band 2018 maybe. But yeah, I don't know. It was a lot of fun.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I feel like, I mean, was there a way of knowing that if we hadn't like talked to you?
I mean, I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Well, it's another.
I might have
fact.
to go through all the files in our
Yeah.
archives to
We
see if I
might
can find you.
Mom said no.
Mom
I
said
always,
no.
to be honest with you, I'm sorry, Elliot, if you're watching this, but I hated that name. I always hated it. I thought that was the dumbest name, but whatever.
Spilling the beans 6 years later.
Yeah.
And we have one final, a burning question for you.
Yeah. So I mean, you kind of already brought up earlier how I guess you seem to have like a pretty big like audience for yourself from like all over the place. So, you know, in preparation, we do a little bit of deep dive into like, you know, social medias and Spotify's. Interesting thing we saw, St. Blind has a really big listening in like Australia.
Yeah.
Anything like about that?
I have no idea. I have no clue. And I know. I mean, I have noticed that too. I don't know. Yeah, if you look at, if you're able to find my like top cities in terms of listeners, it's Perth, Melbourne, and Sydney. Those have been my top 3 for months. I don't know why. They love me down there. I mean,
shout out to St. Blind.
Down.
Australia
I
audience.
know. I wish I knew. I mean,
has anyone contacted you, be like, "Hey, I listen to music from Australia"?
No, I wish from Australia. No, honestly, the only contact I've gotten is the Bryn from Round Rock. She found my email on my website, and she reached out to me, and she was like, "Hey, I love your music," and I was like, "Thank you so much." And yeah, so we've sort of emailed back and forth every once in a while.
That is crazy.
That's pretty much the only interaction that I've had.
Well, I mean, Australia's waiting for you. Clearly,
I know. Yeah, I gotta go on a
make
world
some
tour.
coin down there.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll see. Alrighty, so we're ready to transition to the live performance. Feel free to kind of explain if there's a backstory behind like any of the stories, and also make sure to mention the title right before you start.
Cool.
Perfect.
So yeah, this first one is called "It's Just the Chemicals." This came out, I think, in August of last year. It's just about, you know, sometimes you're smoking a little bit. Sometimes you know, and it could be any kind of chemical they could apply to. Sometimes it's a little too much, and so you eat some sugar, drink some water. It'll all be over soon. these things do to your brain is just incredible. Now your lips are turning white and you're shaking at the knees. Your eyes are bloodshot. Now your cheeks are turning green. It'll all be over soon. It's just the chemicals. What these things do to your brain is just incredible. I say it's such a funny life we have. It'll knock you down just to make itself laugh. And when you finally get back on your feet, all it takes is a left-handed cigarette to bring you back to your knees. Now your lungs begin to wake as the room begins to spin. Perhaps you should sit down, wouldn't want you to be sick. It'll all be over soon, it's just the chemicals. What these things do to your brain is just incredible. La la la, 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 la la la. La la la, 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 la la la.
Woo.
Yeah. Thank you. That was so I gotta set up my keyboard between everyone.
Go for it. That's all right.
Everything sounded good.
Yeah.
Okay. That song just gives me very Halloween.
Thank you.
Like I'm going into a mansion or a haunted house.
That's the intended effect. So I appreciate it. If I didn't have this little paper on me, it would take about twice as long.
Oh, is that like the preset?
Yeah,
Like-
well, just a little cheat sheet for exactly how I dial in what I'm trying to do.
No worries. Continue.
All right, so introduce this one.
Yeah, go for it. No, I mean, you just feel free whenever.
So this one, like I was saying earlier, I actually wrote at the podium, the Easy Scan podium at Tops. This one it's just about being in your 20s and working to live and just not being happy about it. So it's called Diatribes. Yesterday was warm for mid-November in New York. At least that's what I heard. I stayed inside. But tomorrow will be colder and I'll feel a little older, watching as the seasons pass me by. La 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 la. can't help but find it funny now that I'm depressed and 20 that they're more reflective than they've ever been. La 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 Thank you.
Oh, that's gonna get stuck in my head.
Okay, this one's easy to set up. Done. Okay. All right.
Go ahead.
Okay, this next one doesn't need a whole lot of introduction. This one's called Give It Time. My mom thinks that I look homeless. I just hope that I'm not hopeless. I had a dream, but I sold it. Who was it that told us that it turns out okay? Your credit cards are paid, a job that you won't hate, and everything would make sense. Just give it time. You can't see that far down the line. We'll all turn out alright. History's oldest lie. What if all the things we heard, all the old wives' tales we learned weren't make-believe? If you watch too much TV, your brain will run. We'll all turn out alright. History's oldest lie. Thank you.
That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
I don't know why it made it sound like, you know, I was getting married or something. Like
Yeah.
a very like organy, churchy
yeah.
feeling. Yeah.
This one's also pretty easy to switch to. Cool. I'm ready. So this, I have two more. This next one I recorded a few months ago with the help of the one and only Dylan Rohr.
Wow.
This was actually recorded originally with trumpet, trombone, cello, clarinet, drums, piano, bass, a whole orchestra. It was a huge undertaking, and Dylan was.
Was this all you?
What's that?
Like, did you play them all?
So no.
Oh, I was like,
I did piano, guitar, drums, and string bass. Jacob King of Jacob King and the Wired Band was on clarinet. Vinnie Heller was on trumpet. Catherine Wynn of Kiwi Grimm was on cello. Will North on trombone. I feel terrible, but I'm probably forgetting one or two people. I think that might have been it. I don't know. But anyways, so this is sort of an abridged version of that song because there were some instrumental parts of that song where there was a trumpet or a cello playing or whatever that wouldn't really translate very well. So this is just the sung verses of that song. So call me a martyr and hang me out to dry. Hit me harder, come on, spit in my eye. Let me be the effigy that you worship at its feet after you beg and you plead for some holy blasphemy. So do what you want, be a movie star, devil may care. But what happens when your God breaks character? You'll have to find a new form of terror, hang something else from your rear view mirror, move somewhere else where the water is clear, confess and repent, rinse and repeat. So put out the fires and sweep all the ashes away. Give thanks to a ghost, spell his name with a capital H. Say 3 Hail Marys and call it a day. All is forgiven if only you pray. All is forgotten if only you pay. Save the women and kids, isn't that what they say? That was Devil May Care. I started playing and I realized I might not have introduced that one. Like I might not have said the title. But
that was Devil May Care.
I might have, but I couldn't remember.
I'm pretty sure you did. I think.
It was Devil May Care, I promise. All right, so I have one last one. Before I start, I just want to say thank you real quick to my girlfriend's sister's dad, whose keyboard this is.
Oh, wow.
We went and visited. They live in Batavia. We went and visited for Christmas, and this is his keyboard. And I spent the entire time visiting, just messing around on this and playing with it. And he walks in the room and he goes, "Don't leave here without that." So he's letting me borrow this, I guess, until I have the money to buy one myself. So thank you very much, Ben. I appreciate it. This last one, it's called Library Card. It actually, when you're listening to this, comes out today. So it comes out a week from today. So on
today.
The 21st. Yeah. Today. So for the listeners at home, today. So yeah, check out Library Card by St. Blind. That's this. some know that I dropped out before summer 21. I've been running on fumes since I put it right. Do my best to ignore the old check engine light. I'm torn at the seams, but at least I'm alive. So I might as well try to run.
Woo.
Thank you.
And it's released today, right?
That's right.
Today.
April 21st.
Heck yeah. So now we're going to move on to our second set of questions, kind of just to wrap up this interview. Again, your set was so great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And just to reiterate, library card out today.
Today.
Mhm.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
But let's head on to our first question. Taking a look at your Spotify particularly, your bio says, each and every note and lyric of St. Blind's discography is carefully written by A.W. Schapiro. Am I saying it right?
Yeah, Schapiro.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I have a teacher named Shapiro.
Yeah.
Okay. But I just want to make sure I said it right. Explain that a little bit more. I'm kind of curious.
It was kind of just like, I mean, first of all, it's the truth. Except for, of course, Devil May Care, as I mentioned earlier. That's the only song in my entire discography that anyone else has ever touched is Devil May Care.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, other than that, yeah, it was just that's how I've always worked. I've tried many times in the past to work with other people, and I'm just a flaming narcissist, so it's really impossible for me to work with other people. Yeah, I don't know. I've just always, in terms of writing, I've always, I don't know, just done it alone. So, so I started playing piano when I was 3, and then ever since then, I have picked up probably about 12 or 13 different instruments that I can play pretty fluently.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was just like, I grew up really loving Prince. Who was the same way. He wrote all the music, and then he would just sit in his little studio and play. First, he would lay down the guitar, then he would lay down the bass, and then he would lay down the drums. So I just figured, why not? Why don't I just do that?
So I'm assuming your process is very similar when it comes to arranging like the different layers and.
Yeah, it varies. Sometimes the lyrics will come first, and then the chords, and then the melody. Sometimes it'll be the chords, and the melody, and the lyrics. It really varies. In terms of the actual recording process, I've gotten sort of down to a science. Like I'll usually go first the chords, then the bass line, then the beat, then I'll do the vocals. One of the big almost a trademark of St. Blind is the vocal harmonies. That especially in my earlier stuff, that was a big thing. Was the big choir vocal harmony. So I was in high school. I was the student director of the concert choir. So I'm a singer too.
I'm telling you, full circle.
I know, yeah.
Full circle.
Cool.
So yeah,
all right.
It's all me.
So like I said earlier, we before we have the interview and everything, we do a little bit of research. So going on to saintblind.com, it's a very, very big, very extensive website.
Yes.
You've got a bunch of merch.
Whoa.
Did someone say
Did somebody say merchandise?
Explain, Alex. What is your role here on the Local Lowdown?
I have 2 jobs on this show. It's to make sure this works. I'm pointing at you, camera, and audio, and other things that are probably in the room. But it's also to collect every single piece of merchandise I come across.
Yes.
I love collecting little trinkets. And let me tell you, I went on your website as well.
Yeah.
And there's like 4 pages of stuff.
Yeah.
I was in
I
heaven.
had a field day of things. I was like,
Yeah.
okay. For a minute, I thought I was going to spend maybe 5-10 minutes. And I was like, you know what? I got to sit down. I got to make sure. Because there's some lyrics on there. There's merch. There's storyline.
There's an arcade on there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. I didn't get a chance to play.
Yeah.
But
There's so much things. It's great.
Yeah.
Um,
How'd you build it? Put everything together?
So that also, I hate to say it, entirely me. So I I don't know. I don't tend to outsource things. I just try to figure out how to do them myself. So I built my entire website. I mean, I sound like some like coder.
No.
I believe Weebly was the engine that I used. So yeah, I don't know. I always just really liked growing up when bands had cool websites. There's one of my roommates, Felix, who came on with Jacob King when he was on. Yeah. He's really into this one hip hop artist, Rap Ferreira, and his record label. They have like this really cool interactive website where you like walk through this interactive cafe and you can hear their unreleased stuff. It's pretty cool. So I always just really appreciated the idea of bands having like cool interactive websites to go to. So yeah, I don't know. It was just the one of the first things that I did on that website that I hadn't really seen anyone else do. Although I think Phineas did this for Billie Eilish's music a while ago, but I actually posted downloadable versions of the GarageBand files for everything on I Go Hall on my website. So if you have GarageBand for iOS, you can go to my website, click it, and open up my original stems on your phone.
Crazy.
So I haven't done that for the newer stuff just because I have been procrastinating. But yeah, so I built it all myself.
How long did it take you? Was this like a process?
It's kind of an ever-growing process.
Makes sense,
for like the actual like design of it, probably like a week or so to actually like get down exactly what I wanted it to look like. And then I have an arcade on my website where you can go and you can play different arcade games. Yeah, that was just as simple as I went on a website and found arcade games that you could just encode into websites, like just with just little flash games that you just need to type in this huge string of code and they'll just show up there. So it's really, nothing is too difficult. Like it's all something that anyone can do.
Right. It's just coming up with the idea.
Yeah.
Especially as an artist, and you expect people to come across your page at some point and to know more about you. It just makes sense to be like, hey, say it for a little bit while or a little bit longer.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, like, I was like, why not be the artist with an arcade on their website, you know?
Talk more about your merch because there's like a mug, there's like a tote bag, there's like
so
go ahead.
I hand make everything myself. No, I'm just kidding. So everything is.
You had me believing for a second. I was like, oh my god.
So it's a really cool thing. It's a really cool company that it's through. It's not as cool as it might look because it's so everything on my website is made to order. So if you want to order a mug, a hat, a tote bag, you can get hoodies, shirts, pajamas. You can get baby footies. Water bottles, pins.
You opened up a can of worms. Dude.
Yeah. It's all just made to order. It's actually a very simple thing. It's this company called Spreadshirt, and you just upload the design that you want printed on it, and then you can, just like the arcade games, embed that into your website, and then people can pay Spreadshirt, and Spreadshirt will give me a cut to make my merch and send it out to my, whoever's ordering. So it's not like I have this huge warehouse full of hats and buttons and mugs and stuff. They're all made to order.
Well, cool. I mean, as I said, you open up a can of worms. You're like, I have everything and anything.
Oh yeah. There's stuff on there that I have the option to sell, but I'm like, this is too much. Like, there's like.
From it, I was like, "Do you have some merch on you?"
I'm sorry, I don't. I know that was so stupid. I should have
you would have been ransacked by Alex. As soon as you walked through the door, Alex would have been like,
"I'll bring you some merch, Alex. I promise."
Is that a Saint Blind duffel bag?
Excuse me, I mentioned it first. I think I should get the. Also, Jordan's not here. I'm sure he would have. Yeah. But regardless, expect us on your page to buy something. We're fiends.
Those hats are looking pretty nice.
Yeah.
I like the mug and the tote bag.
I'm a big hat fan, so I might have to pick one of those up.
All right.
And lastly, going off of that, kind of explaining any future events, any future concerts that you may be having, or maybe even releasing a debut album, because a lot of things you have are singles.
Yeah. I don't have anything in like in terms of an album,
Mhm.
I don't really have anything in the works right now. I don't know. I've always really liked putting out singles. It's kind of, I think it's indicative of the changing world that music is in right now. Like this
That's
is
true. Yeah.
like, I feel like there are a lot of artists now that are kind of only putting out singles, and this is a brand new thing to the music scene. Like it
Mhm.
was always, for the most part, you put out an album or an EP.
Right.
You would put out a single to anticipate it, but
Mhm.
that would always end up being on an album. And now people aren't doing that as much, and now people are realizing you don't have to do that as much.
Yeah.
So I kind of, for better or for worse, I kind of have always seen it a little bit like a social media feed, kind of just like finishing a song and putting it out there. So I don't really have an album coming up. I shouldn't say, well, of course, Library Card comes out today. I have a few shows around Buffalo. I'm playing a really cool festival put together by our good friends Miles Pierce of Tooth and Hallie Cook of Hal and Pals called Vax Fest in Warsaw, New York. That'll be over the summer. And other than that, I'm just gonna probably keep on putting out singles. I don't know. I'm always writing and I'm always recording. So
We're expecting them. I feel like they come out fresh.
yeah,
Yeah.
I like to
That's
be
the
sort of
intention.
prolific with.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was our last
Well,
question.
thank you very much
Of
for having me
course.
on.
We loved having you on. Again, shout out to Jordan. Jordan was super
Yeah.
excited for this week.
He was.
I saw the email back and forth, and I was like, both of them are excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited for them.
Yeah.
Let's do this thing. And poor Jordan is
Poor
Well.
sick.
Poor
I guess you just have to have me on again.
Oh,
whatever.
honestly, part
Yeah.
2. Or just Jordan.
Yeah, just me and Jordan. Yeah.
Sit down, audio
Yeah.
tree style.
Yeah,
yeah.
Hello.
That'd be kind of cool. But that concludes another episode of the Local Lowdown. Thank you again so much, Aaron.
Thank
St.
you for
Bond,
having
coming
me.
on the show. It was a pleasure having you. And next week we have on the show Mr. Christian, aka Mr. Fake Space.
Fake
It's not Mr. Fake Space, but
Space!
Fake Space.
Oh.
We saw them a couple weeks ago in concert, and I mean, both Jordan and Alex they knew about him
I
before I
cannot
did.
wait. This is gonna be such a
Yeah, that's a different story. But again, thank you so much. Really do
Thank
appreciate
you.
Library Card today.
Today.
Yes.
Listen,
Go
today.
listen to it right now.
Right now.
Right
after
now,
this.
like X out and like right now.
Yes.
Thanks once again for tuning into the Local Lowdown on 88.9 WCVF, The Voice, and 89.5 WDVL, The Inferno. Make sure to join us next week for some more amazing local music. Same time, same place. Is it Thursday yet?
I won't be alone. Please leave